Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Brea. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, let's start off with Gavin, Levi, and Eve, and the most awkward situation ever, because it's like, hey, Gavin showed up just when they're about ready to enact their plan to break out. And it's like, hey, Eve and Levi just hooked up again. And it's like, oh, cool. I knew it last episode that this was going to be awkward. And it's super awkward because Gavin knows what's going on between them. Obviously, he's known since last season. And even Levi told Eve, yeah, I told Gavin about us. And he asked me how I felt about you, and I couldn't be honest. I had to be honest. And he's like, I didn't even have to say anything. Because Gavin already could tell just by it. So now it puts him in this awkward situation because Gavin's talking to Eve about, hey, I know I haven't always been there, and I understand why, like, Levi, he was there for you when I couldn't be, but he's like, when we get out of here and when we get Josh back, I want us to start over. I want us to be a family again. And it's like, because even Eve's like, oh, wow, you seem different. And he's like, oh, in a good way. She's like, yeah, because the man that she was in love with initially is back. Because obviously now they understand everything that went down with Gavin. Because now Gavin's complete in many different ways. One, he understands all those visions aren't just visions, they're memories. So, but now he remembers all of who he was growing up in this place. Like, those memories are now restored. And the thing that haunted him for the past 3 years is now cleared up, and he's got so many answers. It almost feels like he's complete in some regards, and it makes you almost wonder if it is that situation of this was always meant to happen, that whatever it is, Gavin is at the center of it, that maybe he is necessary. Why would Silas not want Isaiah to grow up to become Gavin? I mean, it always shows that it already did happen, because he was going to break this loop, because I think it is a loop, that he knows what Gavin's story ends up being, what the ending is. You don't think it's going to be that Aldridge is actually Gavin's mom or something, right? Because Silas did say that his parents are still alive and stuff. It's like, well, because the way he talked, he said, like, once again, the conversation last episode made it seem like Gavin's mom is his daughter, so would he have gone through the trouble of stabbing his own daughter? I mean, complicated families and everything, but I'm like, no, it's probably just that they're just like colleagues at whatever, like, scientific project or whatever the hell this is. I'm still leaning in my wild theory of they're from the distant future and they're trying to go back in time to change things, and it's kind of having ramifications, but it's like, right, it's all for the greater good. We're making some missteps here, but it's all necessary for the greater good of saving the world, changing things for the better in the future. I'm still riding with that theory of mine for now. But like I said, the point is, Gavin already grew up, so that meant that he already does go through. So to be fair, a paradox was already happening because Izzy and Josh were disappearing, so I did kind of let myself forget that again. It's like, right, so the paradox was already kind of happening and was going to erase them from time, so it would have worked the way he wanted it to. But the fact is that Gavin was in the present to begin with means, hey, it all happened like it was meant to either way. But obviously Silas was going to change things. Once again, for what reason, we'll have to wait and see. But like I said, it's just now Gavin has answers about who he is in many different regards. But the problem is it kind of came a little too late. Gavin does suggest, like, hey, we can get out of here with this map. Oh, you got it from Silas. We're not doing anything. It's like, Silas was going to let Josh and Izzy die. You know that. So, but it's like, yeah, I don't trust the guy, but this has to be our best option. Eve kind of sides with Levi. I'm sure even Gavin can't help but think, like, well, I haven't been the most trustworthy, so you're not going to trust my judgment when it comes to the Silas thing, because let's not forget, he probably left that out of the conversation, that Silas gave you the map, but only after he drugged you and made sure that this was your only way into the village, so. But they go with Levi's plan, the original plan of, hey, like, let's make a distraction and get out of here. There's more prisoners than there are guards. And it seemed like the plan was going to go. Like, is it going to work? Is it? And it's like, oh, especially at the very end where it seemed like, oh man, is Gavin going to stay behind? I thought at first, oh, Gavin and Levi are going to stay behind. But it's like, no, Levi, go. And then Gavin's arm's like, please get it. And he slides under and you're like, yeah. And they're all getting out of there. They got weapons in hands, but it's like, nope, the guards were ready for it. He's like, did you think we were stupid? We're just going to let you go? No. We're going to torture everyone, or rather punish everyone. But Gavin took the beating for everyone. And he even pointed out that the leader of the guy who's in charge of everything, he's from a different tribe entirely. And he's like, your tribe is like very peaceful and stuff like that. Why would you be kicking it with the exiles? He has to have his extenuating circumstances, especially because Levi hears them bring up the tower. And it's like, right, so I was right. They are connected to the tower. I would say my initial thought was they were the people from the tower just fitting into this, but kind of like Silas was. But it's like, no, these people are being taken, they're people native to this land who are being taken advantage of by the people in the tower. I guess like the rocks they're gathering are potentially what they're going to use for the machines that are, whatever's going on in that tower. It has to be like machines that are creating the sinkholes, the time portals, essentially. But the $1 million question comes up then. It's like, well, you're helping out the tower, so what are the exiles getting out of it? You know, maybe, especially that leader, like the fact that guy, that's not even his people, and he's kicking it with them, so maybe his family, his people are in danger, so it's kind of like I have to make do, because maybe people he cares about are being held in that tower, maybe they're kind of hostages, or maybe it's just some like, oh, we'll help you, maybe it's like, right, we'll give you the technology you need to go after, like, the village, Isaiah and, Silas and Pod are from, like maybe it's all about arming them with being able to take over that. It's like, right, you never have to live in fear. You can take what you want and no one will be able to stop you type of thing. We just don't know. But our trio of Eve, Gavin, and Levi managed to escape. Sally kind of having to leave everybody else with them. It's like maybe the map thing would have been able to get everyone out of there if they had trusted Silas, if they had trusted more so Gavin's instincts are like, no, we should trust him. I know my grandfather's giving us, not just you guys, but me as well, every reason not to trust him, but still. So now they're going to have to go back to get them at some point in time. But that's also going to be more mouths to feed, which is complicated considering Pada ended up taking back all the food. Because part of me almost wondered, did Scott go see her first? Because it's like, right, I mean, the timing was going to happen eventually, but it just seemed like, oh, just when Scott came back to fill in some answers, she shows up to still take the food back. She wasn't even, I guess she's getting pressure from the village of like, she is the leader, so she has to act strong in front of the others because any sign of weakness, like, they'll try and overthrow her. So by her kind of being a little mean this episode, a little ruthless by just taking the food and bouncing and kind of severing things, it's like, yeah, because if anyone else fills this role, they'll go straight to war with you guys. So for at least now, me doing what I'm doing, I got to look out for the best interests of my people because, like, right, you're looking out for the best interests of yours. What we had was nice, but it's like, yeah, I shouldn't have let what we had get in the way. And Ty's like, had? It's like, yeah. She kind of it just feels like there's other motivating factors behind her decision. And I feel like I said, I think she's just getting a lot of pressure from the village of like, the decision she has to make because because especially she's the one that acts as that liaison between both groups. So her being pretty soft with them makes the other villagers kind of like, oh, like probably question her leadership. So to keep everything copacetic, to keep the equilibrium, she has to do this. So, but because of that, it's like, okay, first and foremost, taking all the food. Now we got to find out whether or not we have to steal the food from them. And, Lucas and Scott, surprisingly. And that's when we already knew something was up with Scott. We'll get to that in a second. But it's like, oh, of course something's up because Scott's agreeing with Lucas, the guy that was threatening to kill him a lot last season. So it's like, yeah, that seemed weird. And Scott isn't always the one for jumping into the frying pan type of situation. He avoids the frying pan as much as possible in this, metaphorical sense. So he even tried to be like, yeah, I'm not all about fighting or war, but I'd rather not starve, so I agree with Lucas. And even Veronica's like, wait, you do? Because it's super not like Scott at all. Even Lucas is like, what's up with you? You've been different ever since you got back from being with Aldrich and stuff. It's like, yeah, we went our separate ways. I was like, wait. I was like, are you lying to them? Because I was like, maybe he's telling the story after the tower, and then it's like, yeah, Silas is going to take them to a tower. Oh, tower, I didn't hear anything about that. They're like, nope, there you go, you're lying. I'm like, well, why? What are you doing? And then, like, the fact is he was gung-ho about the food. I'm like, do you know something about what's going to go down? It's like, no. He was sent to retrieve something from Silas, which I guess the village is on high alert, so Silas won't be able to sneak back in the village without being seen. So I thought by the time they got to the village, Silas would have already gotten whatever it was, which we find out it looks like a key card that says Lazarus on it. So I'm wondering, is it supposed to be like, what's this whole project like the Lazarus Project? What is Lazarus about? Like coming back from the dead. So you're like, there's some correlation there. It kind of has something about this has to have something to do with resurrecting. Like I said, whether it's like a distant future thing of we got to resurrect the planet because like things are going so topsy-turvy, things are so shitty, we got to change things for the better, and that's what this whole time travel thing's about. Once again, what role Gavin plays, we don't know, but it's like, why, whatever it is, we find out later on, like, Aldrich is the one who told Scott to lie to him, and she's like, you gotta lie a little longer, and it's like, but why? Also, interesting enough, and there's got to be significance to it, the book that the key card was hidden in is Journey to the Center of the Earth. So it's like, there's got to be some, like, it'd be just a coincidence. Like, there's got to be a correlation to that. That book's got to be significant to why. It's got to be important to Silas, but also, like, it has to have some, like, connection to, like, what's going on here. I even look like, despite all like Scott's like deceitfulness, I did like the moment he had with Izzy, where he's like, "Yeah, me and Josh, we've been through so much together. We're practically pros." I was like, "Yeah, sure, Scott, I love it." But also, it's like, yeah, he'll be fine. Like after he survived everything here, he'll come back. If anything, he'll come back with a mullet, and he'll be fine. It's like, yeah, because your brother said like you're the smart one. And she's like, he said that because the last time they were talking, like, they weren't seeing eye to eye. Same thing with Izzy and her mom. Like, things were complicated. So, hearing like, Josh thinks like that of me because they like argued like that, so. This episode also seemed like it was setting up the Veronica and Lucas thing. I was like, are you? Because she's like, yeah, I owe you for saving my life. So, yeah. She ended up tagging along with them breaking into the fort. And yeah, like I said, the moment he was like, my ankle, I can't walk. I can't walk. I was like, you're faking it, you bastard. And it's like, right, you're here for something else. And then like, because what the directions, he was like, 12 feet here, blah, blah, blah. Like the way he was counting steps and stuff, I was like, is that to help you find your way back to the tower? But it's like, no, it was supposed to help him find Silas's hut and village so that he can get the Lazarus card. I do believe what Scott said to be true when Veronica was like, okay, there's something more to this. And he's like, once again, this isn't like you. And he's like, I'm not the type who usually puts my neck out there. He's like, I've kind of haven't really stepped up and helped out like I should. He feels like he always kind of comes short. Last season in particular, he froze quite a bit and he feels a lot ashamed of that. He's like, I just want to protect my friends. So I do believe, like, at the heart of all this, he's only lying because Aldrich told him to, and that in the greater scheme of things, this is going to be about protecting his friends, getting Josh and Riley back, and also making sure that everyone finds their way back home. So it's interesting because Aldrich told him like, I could get Josh and Riley back. But even Silas was like, he doesn't know if it's a possibility. And it's like, who's lying? One of you has to be lying. So the question is, was it Silas? Is it Aldrich lying just to get what she wants? Or is it just like, it's so dangerous, Silas doesn't want them to pull that trigger because if they do this is playing right into what Aldrich wants and what he's trying to stop. Once again, whatever it is that has Gavin at the center of it. It does make you wonder, whatever his circumstances are, whatever it is, there's got to be, whatever it's like, if it's like a constitution thing of like something inside of him is different, maybe like scientifically engineered or something like that. Like maybe there's something special in his blood or whatever, right? You would assume part of it's in Josh and Izzy, and maybe that's extra reason why to keep Josh away. He didn't obviously have any interactions with Izzy though, but like, you know, maybe it's going to be a circumstance of, and I think it could be like, oh, Josh has it, but I think it'd be more interesting if you find out that Izzy's the one that has it, just because like, well, Gavin and Izzy are the ones that were together, but maybe even more so because Josh and Gavin weren't together at all for most of the show, that whatever thing Gavin's got that's so important. Like I said, I'm just assuming like there's some like secret thing, code written in his DNA or something, or in his blood that's so special that I feel like whatever it is, it's got to be something that's in his kids too. Probably it's going to be prominent in one child more than it will be the others. I don't know. Wild speculation on my part, because that's what I do when it comes to mysteries. I'm like, oh, could it be this? Could it be that? And it's like, yeah, I'm guessing everything under the sun, that there's nothing that's really been proven that says there's any validity to my point. So, but the basis is there, and I'm just kind of running rampant with that, kind of going my own way with. But also he started to learn, like, right, Aldrich isn't the best person either, because she's like, oh, I could have told you about the Josh and Riley thing, but it's like, no, you'll learn about stuff when I need you to learn about it. So it's like, cool, you're stringing me along, and once again, how do I know you're not lying to me? Because the way she's saying, like, the Lazarus card is what they need now, because their attempt to get into the facility the way they were last episode, that other passage, did not work out for them for whatever reason. So this is kind of like their only other way of getting into the tower. And even saying, like, right, Scott's got to stay here because Gavin's going to be back. So it's like she knew. Once again, they got to know enough to be like, oh, we know how things are going to play out, all the moment. Maybe like they know the future enough up to a certain point, up to what they need to change, but they know things are going to happen. Once again, because everything's caught in this cycle, this loop. So it's like, right, you already know kind of the beginning, middle, and end to some extent, but you're trying to throw in some X factors that change the outcome. But Lucas ends up running into the guy who killed who's responsible for his mom's death. And Lucas wants to kill him, but Veronica's like, I understand where you're coming from. That it's like, right, it's guilt over what happened with your mom, which she's got to be talking about the Lily thing. But whatever, we still don't know what it is last episode that she feels some guilt over, and she talks about she did some terrible things. That's why I'm like, did she actually kill Lily's biological parents? Is it something more so about what she did? Because I'd also thrown out maybe she helped him, their fake dad. Maybe she helped him kidnap other kids as well, and she feels guilt over that. Or, like I said, maybe she killed, or helped kill, or actually did kill Lily's parents, or maybe her own. I don't know. Like, she has some regret about handling things. And so, ultimately, she still couldn't get through to Lucas, but Lucas stopped himself because he saw his mom's killer with his family. And for him, it's like, I can't do that to someone. Like, considering my dad, what happened with my dad, he's like, I couldn't do that to some other kid, you know? It's like, it's wrong to do. And that particular wording, it seemed like it got Veronica. So that's why I'm like, there has to be, there's some connection there of like, you know, a parent and a kid. Like, she must have, like I said, killed Lily's parents in front of her or something, like, or killed them after. Like, she did something like that, because Lucas saying what he did, like, it really struck a chord with her, even to the point she was like holding onto his hand afterwards. But I'm like, that's what submits to me, like, is there going to be something that happens between the two of them? I actually don't know how old Veronica's supposed to be or how old Lucas is supposed to be. I don't remember. I don't know if that's supposed to be what that is. I have another theory about the whole Veronica thing, but I'm like, because I'm pushing the whole like something happening between them thing. I'm like, it makes me feel weird to say. I'll go ahead and say it. I super don't think it's going to be the case. I was thinking like for a second, I was like, you don't think Veronica's actually a younger Mary Beth or something, right? Like, I know it's, but I'm like, I'm stupid for thinking that, but I'm like, you don't think. That's why I'm like throwing it out there. That's why I'm saying like, I super don't believe that, but there's a part of my brain that immediately thought like, you don't think that's going to be the twist there or something? Probably not. I pulled it because in my head I was almost kind of thinking a little bit of a 12 Monkeys, specifically the TV show. I don't want to reference what if you've seen 12 Monkeys, you know what I'm kind of referencing where there's a similar situation. I'm like, oh, that ended up being so-and-so's mom. That type of thing. Yeah. So that's what I was kind of referencing. So I that's me just throwing that out there. I highly doubt that's a possibility, but like I said, I want to let you know that was there in my head. I just don't think I'm leaning more towards the whole something happening between them rather than it's like, oh, Veronica's actually your mom and something happens and she ends up, what I mean? Well, because it's like, once again, it's like Lily and Isaiah didn't remember anything until like being adults as Ella and Gavin, so, and Riley and Josh have all their memories, which maybe that's because Riley's with Josh and certain factors. Well, it's like, if that was the case, why wouldn't Isaiah remember? So like, there's something there. Maybe the further you go in time, the more effect it has on your memory because they went... No, because I was about to say like Isaiah, because they all went the same amount of time, so it wouldn't... Once again, maybe it's just because they're older. I don't know, because their brains are a little more developed than that of kids. I don't know. Once again, maybe just being convinced it was all in your head or kind of a dream or their way of dealing with trauma is maybe how a therapist might see it. So that's why, once again, everything got so buried. Either way, Ty and Sam are not too happy about the way Luke has handled this because it's like, cool, now we're super going to go to war with these people and that's bad enough. But even Sam's like, yo, I don't regret my decision initially because he's like, right, you're not more worried about like, oh, not necessarily Potter and her people, but more so you and her because it's not just our group she doesn't trust anymore. It's you and it kind of ruins everything between you. So it's like, right, I wasn't going to jeopardize anything that can make sure I could get my daughter back. So we at least got one happy note to the episode, and that is Izzy and Eve getting reunited. Granted, Gavin did have to go like, yeah, I did told you Izzy's okay, and she is okay. She's just here with me, and it's like, yeah, but, which it is very powerful and beautiful considering, like, right, the last time Izzy saw her mom is when her mom was like, let me go. You need to go save yourself, Izzy. So it's like for them to be reunited. She's super not going to be happy with Gavin about the whole thing bringing her here, even though it was her own choice as well. But it's also like, no, you shouldn't have done that. It was irresponsible, especially when he wants to try and make things better and get back together. But there's the whole her and Levi thing. Plus, there's also the element of they also lost Silas, and so we know he hasn't been back to the village yet, but he might take an opportunity to swing back there. Not unless he's playing like laying low until the village is empty, so he can sneak in and try and get what he needs to. Not unless he has his own way into the tower. Like Aldrich couldn't get into Tower of Scott, but maybe he can, and maybe that's exactly where he is. So many questions on my part. It's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.